All right. Can you guys hear me? Hopefully, you guys can hear me. Somebody shoot me a message if you can see the visual and hear what's going on. All right, I'm gonna do some operations. Might be a little clunky because I've never done a live stream doing ops, but let's give it a shot. In the future, I'm going to be doing. I'll edit posted. I'll post edited videos of operations so I can kind of clean them up. But I thought it might be fun just to take a look at some live ops. Before I start, greetings from the shed. Let me know if the voice is coming through okay. Shed model rail. And start things out. So that caboose that you see there is my target. I'm going to take that and I'm going to shove it down and pick up the maintenance away train, which is all right. Thanks, Shed. Which is down at the far end of the layout there. And then I'm going to pull that maintenance away train out here into the Province and Worcester area. It's going to do some work, some track work, and that adds an obstacle to the operations because it'll be sitting there on the main, so you have to kind of work around it when you're operating. Happy Friday, TTFOLS. Yeah, this is a Friday morning. A lot of people are probably working, so we'll see how many we get, but we're here. So there's the CSX yard, and once I pull that maintenance away train onto the P&W, I'm going to pull a cut of cars out of CSX yard, and I'm going to put it on the interchange track or one of the two interchange tracks there in P&W, and then they're going to pull out and actually switch a couple cars right there at the Bachi food plant that you see across the way. So let's try it. I'm going to start up. The engine that's going to grab that caboose is a P&W. It's a GP38 there in the engine facility. It's number 2007. And I'm going to use the handy proto throttle. So let's see if I can start that up. It's got the CSX behind me starting up, so I'm going to shut that down because it's going to be too loud for us. No volume? That's odd. Can anybody hear what I'm saying? Shed can hear me. Try your maybe you're muted on your end, your speaker, because I've got the microphone on, um, loud and clear. Okay, cool. So it's coming through. So TFFOLS, see if it's on your end. Maybe your volume's off or you got it muted. Well, I guess if you can't hear me, duh, you're not going to know that, but maybe he'll figure it out. Maybe Shed, maybe just shoot a comment. I can't do it from my phone that you're hearing the volume, so it might be on his end, if you wouldn't mind. All right. So anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my proto throttle and I'm gonna start up that GP38. All right. Thanks. Glad you got it, man. Volume. Crafted covers. Welcome. All right. So I'll turn on the lights. And what I do is on all my sidings, including the engine facility, I have these gates these are Alcon fence, and I like to keep those closed. And then I have a derailleur. These are operational derailleurs. I think they're Durango press. Somebody asked me that on my channel. They're just cast metal, and they come unpainted, and they're in three pieces. You glue them together, and CA glue them on the track, and it's hinged, so it's kind of cool. A little trick to those is what I do is I glue the two base pieces together on a really thin piece of styrene, and then it holds the whole assembly together. Then I CA glue that to the rail to the ties. Anyway, so I open the gates, I check the derailleurs, obviously make sure you're aligned. Now I'm going to go back and grab that caboose. So these, hey Chris Bell, all my engines except one are Atlas. I've got a Rapido Conrail, but the Atlas have all of them have ESU decoders. V5 seems to work pretty good. Not a sponsor, so camera's a little shaky because I got my tripod's a little loose, but hopefully not too much of a distraction. So we want to grab that caboose, and what I have inside that caboose, I've got a decoder that allowed me to put lights, including that blinking rear end light, which is I used a prototype, which is an actual ex Conrail turned into Province Worcester, and they had it set up that way. So I took I think it was an Athearn kit or an Athearn model Conrail. I just faded it and made it look pretty grungy, and that's the result. Oop, it does the thing where it doesn't connect because when you're on camera, your couplers don't hook up when you're on camera. It's just the way it is. And there's Rigby. He comes out every time we're operating. All right, so rookie mistake. I didn't do the switch setting, but there we go. So in order to shove that caboose out to the maintenance away area, which is way down the other end of the layout, I need to get behind it. So I'm going to do a runaround. So I just need to clear Just need to get it in this section here, and then I could do a runaround. So we'll do that. I think that's a number 5 aluminum knitting needle. So my wife knits, so I grabbed a couple of these, and they work better for when you have to uncouple the cars or move switches. I used to use these bamboo deals, but this thing's much better. I got a couple of these. You get them at like a thrift store for nothing, a couple dollars for a set. All right, so let's see. I will flip that switch. I do all my turnouts are hand operated, except for 2, which I could show you. But since the layout's only 20 inches deep, it's easier to do it by hand, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper too. Less expensive, I should say. And then in that caboose, when I was kit bashing it, I guess you'd say, I put an interior inside as well, so it's got a detailed interior, which I just scratch built out of styrene parts. So now the runaround. Clear that switch. Hopefully the locomotive noise isn't drowned in things too out too much. Probably speeding in reality, if this were the real world, but it's not. Oh, that was good. So we're going down the siding instead of around the train. Conductor wasn't paying attention. Yeah, I finally got this layout to a point where I could do some operating, so I need to practice working my own layout. All right, now we're aligned. Let's try that one again. So the runaround is going to be right here. Ring the bell just because I can. All right. So now we're gonna shove that caboose out to the main at the other end, pick up the maintenance away cars, and then put those in front of the caboose. That's the thing with these shelf layouts. I mean, to do this one operation is going to take a bit. And if I were to, I mean, I got so many cars in the yard behind me that I could spend probably half a day out here and still not have switched everything, which is nice. It gives me a lot of options. All right, so let's move down here. While it's coming. There's our target down here. I want to grab those 2 cars. But I'm going to have to dump that caboose on the main, pull those cars out, and then grab the caboose and then head back. So we'll just take a view from this end as it's approaching. Got to slow down at that crossing so I can activate the lights. I have my sensors kind of close into the track because I'm doing a lot of slow switching. Kind of hauling across that grade there, but all right. So the first thing I want to do is drop off that caboose. And unfortunately, these live streams, it doesn't let you focus. It just kind of gives you the focus. So we're aligned to that turnout, and you'll see the signal here will go red when I dump the caboose there, since it's obstructing the main. This section is the newest, which I posted a recent video on. It's 2 feet of new layout. It's probably good. Actually, that one turnout is it's a blue point. So I pull that. Hold on. Just pull this out. No, I push it in. That aligns the main. Aligns it to the siding. And we've also got these dwarf signals, just so you know which orientation. So it's red. We're aligned for the siding. Thanks, Chris. I'm glad you like it. It's nice to actually be running some trains finally. All right, so now we're going to go in. Open up that derailleur and head in there and grab those cars. There's a good chance that it won't couple because I'm on film. And then we just help it by hand. Let's see what happens. Oh, it worked. So what I got on this maintenance away train is I've got all this stuff here. It's the gear for getting the work done, tie plates, rails, old used ties, parts, or different things to put on the loader there, which is a OTM tracker. Need to do some weathering on the Herzog car, but we'll get there. All right, so now we're going to take this thing out onto the P&W. while that's leaving, I'll just kind of show you what's going on here. So we got all this pretty well done. I mean, I got static grass. I've got that back track with the bus and the main cars kind of quasi abandoned. So I put a scrappy car there. And yeah, so I got the foliage and whoops, I didn't sound the horn at the crossing. So we'll skip that. Got the lights all installed. Um, Backdrop along the side there. Roy, thanks. I appreciate it. Roy's on Coronation and Thorndike. He is actually the gentleman who built that building there and the little side building. So we kind of talked about where that would go, and it made sense. It was going to be out by the yard there as a crew change facility, but I'll talk about what I'm going to do there instead. But it made the perfect thing to fill in the space. I didn't want another industry, and I thought about just pure foliage, but this worked out perfect. So really, it's a building that when Roy built this, he put details inside and lighted it. You can't really see it with the camera, unfortunately, but there's a lot of really good details in there. Like a first aid kit. There's a desk. The only thing I did is I added Alchem fencing just because I'm kind of obsessed with this fencing. I like the way it looks, and I added my scratch built lamp lights. And yeah, and this little building's got some interior detail. It's kind of abandoned, but it's sitting there on the property. And, I'm going to add ballast piles and various bits and bobs to make it look a little more in use. All right, so where do we want to take this? We want to park this thing on the main at P&W, which is going to be on the other side of the fence there. So these three really are interchange tracks. This was used more for equipment like the rail inspection vehicle, and then on the other side of the fence here is the main right here. So that's where it's going to sit while they do their work. Thanks, Jimmy, on the backdrop. Took a lot of fiddling around to try to get the perspective right of, and having the track look like it continues and the road continue. But it's just trial and error, as you guys know. Print out a lot of things, waste a lot of printer ink. All right, so I like having this. I like having this maintenance away train. Oh, you know what, guys? What did I forget? Anybody know? While I was yapping, forgot the caboose. So I'm going to go back and get that. This conductor is going to get fired for sure. I mean, it's ridiculous. All right, so what I do in this case, since we got to go a line to the main, we pull that out and we're green. It's one of those Blue Point turnout switches that's under there. So it has a double pole, double throw switch, which allows me to hook up my dwarf signals and the fascia signals I just showed you. So my whole intent was to have that caboose parked in the main, and then once I grab these cars, reattach the caboose. Because we got to have a crew that is working this train, right? And they're sitting in the caboose wondering where the hell the engine went. Chris said no 050 here. Yeah, the caboose is loose. Not anymore. Let's see if we can hitch it up here. Yeah, it's as much as I try to practice making these hitches smooth, it takes a lot of practice. All right, now we can go in the right direction. There we go. Ooh, it didn't hitch. It's the coupler. It's the coupler. Yeah, the crew. Chris said the crew didn't. They didn't radio because they were just hanging out, enjoying a longer lunch break. So maybe they figured they could just stay there all day instead. All right, so let's park this thing on the main so they can do their thing, and then I'll pull the train out of the yard, CSX yard. I'll show you how I do that. He's kind of hightailing it now. Make up time. All right. Yeah, there we go. Then we got another signal at this end too. So there's a block. I mean, since it's a point-to-point layout, we call them blocks, but they also tell you when you're getting to the end of the layout, so you know when you're operating. If you're standing at the far end, you can look down and see when you're getting into that area. So you'll see that light turn red as he crosses the sensors, and it'll stay red as long as something's in that segment of track. So I'll just leave it right there, and that's where they're going to do they're going to replace some ties, I guess. All right, so yeah, they're gonna want their overtime, Chris. All right, so now over here, I've been so busy on that maintenance away section that I didn't really do much to this. This was the original expansion, so I got everything done except ballasting the tracks and some other fine details which we'll work on. But I got a cut of cars here that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars long. I'm gonna pull it out. I'm just gonna switch the front too, so just to give you an idea of how it works. And I'm gonna use this CSX engine 3289. So I just go to my proto throttle and I'll select that. See where it is. All right, start that thing up. I'll do the bell here since we are in the yard. All right, so we got this turnout here, the main curve turnout that either directs you to the main line or the yard. In this case, we want it set for the main line because that engine is on the main line. So this is a tortoise machine, and I've got same deal. I've got a couple of dwarf signals, one on each side, as well as the fascia indicator. So now I know I'm lined up for that mainline track, which is CSX is on the main. And then these two are what I call the yard tracks. So we're going to pull that out. Haven't really weathered this engine yet, obviously. This is a curve where I have that Iowa Skilled Engineering squealer, flange squealer. It works better when you have a long train, because then as all the cars are going across, you're getting a constant squeal. All right, so we can stop there, and now we just flip this thing over to the yard, line it to the yard, and back up number 3289 into the yard, grab that cut of cars. Off with the annoying bell. Brilliant hitch. Who said you can't have long trains on a shelf layout? We don't want to offend anybody. Our signage. Okay, where you stop? We're on the ground for some reason. Why that happened, I don't know. It was probably off the track in the yard. All the work I've been doing, hammering in the layout. Because normally nothing derails on these turnouts. Yeah, I think it was off the track. All right, so we're out of the yard, and it's probably gonna end up crossing the grade out there in order for me to clear the turnout to get into the interchange yard. So again, I'm going for this inside interchange track. I'm going to dump the cars there. Okay, so we cleared the turnout. I mean, I have those rear end device things that you put in the coupler. Right? Usually, I'll put it in the trailing car. So when you pick it up in the yard, you put it in the coupler, and then when you drop it off, you take it out. Just little plastic unlighted ones. So that should, all 7 cars should fit in that. And if not, I can split them because I can dump some here. I can even dump some there in the third track. But I'm pretty sure this cut will fit here. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, the interchange to me, it just makes it, it's prototypical. Before I had that CSX yard, all I had were the interchange tracks, so cars had to just sit there, which, yeah, I mean, it worked, but it wasn't authentic. All right, so there's enough space here without even hitting the mirror. Obviously that's a mirror under the bridge. That's why it looks like it keeps going. One time, one of the comments on the channel, somebody thought that was another room, an opening that goes into another room. I wish. Actually, that behind that wall is outside, and can't go any further. What the heck? I'm having trouble unhitching this car here. So do it by hand. There we go. The dreaded, yeah. This is why we don't use our hands, because once you do that, everything starts coming off the damn truck. But you've all experienced this. Beautiful. All right. Sorry about that. For some reason, I couldn't get the little knitting needle to uncouple. All right, so now we're gonna take that engine, put it back in the yard. And it could, that's what I like about the layout. I could actually park it there, since one of the P&W engines is out. The CSX could come in here and get refueled, but I'm just gonna dump it back in its own yard. And the way the layout's set up, you could actually, I could have multiple operators. So this thing can go back into the CSX and start shuffling cars in the yard for the next cut. Just get them in the right orientation. So one operator would just do what I just did, while the other one's, running that maintenance away train or switching the industries. So again, a lot you can do with a shelf layout. There's hours of operations, if you like that. If you like going in circles, I can't do that. I have the motorman from Iowa Scaled Engineering, and I have it set up so I can shuttle trains automatically back and forth. Like that maintenance away train could go from the maintenance away track I showed you all the way to the end of the CSX yard, go back the other way, and just keep going. It's just kind of fun to do when you're out here working. All right, so we'll leave that there. And I'll shut it down just so we don't have the noise. Engine off. Now, what I got to do is I'm going to switch these first 2 cars, because I did do some shuttling of cars before the video. The box car and the corn syrup car have to go over here to Bachi Foods. So right now there's vegetable oil, and that's going to swap out for corn syrup. So it takes both of them in at that far part of the siding. So it's 3, even though it's one industry with one siding, it's 3 different switching opportunities. In this case, we got to move that hopper and take those 2 behind it and replace them with these 2 here. So I got one engine 2007 tied up on the maintenance away train there, and it's got to be CSX that does the switching. So we're going to pull out the GE U23B, like this engine actually. We'll start that one. And that what I'll do too is I'll shut down the. No, I won't. I was going to shut down the maintenance way engine, but I think it needs to be running. All right, so what do we want? 1, 2, 3. We're going to load. This is 2203. Start that one up. So what has to happen here is I've got to back up, clear those turnouts, and then pull out to get out onto the interchange. Let's position this where we can see it. Let's make sure we're aligned. So yeah, now that I'm getting the layout pretty well together, I'll post some operations videos, where we get to edit out the dead space and me yapping. All right, so we got these 2 cars we got to cut. And if you got these Atlas tank cars, they've got those shelf couplers, which are sometimes a pain to uncouple. I'd probably just replace those with regular Cadies. So I'll leave the rest of that cut because that's for future switching. Leave it on the interchange. So we've got to orientate. We've got to orientate the train so they can get onto that Bachi siding. Yeah, I agree, Roy. I mean, the dead space is kind of what makes it realistic. I mean, when I'm doing this on my own, I'll actually pause when I couple cars to as if they have to connect the air hoses and pressure up the car, and kind of Lance Mannheim philosophy. It does make it more authentic, more enjoyable. But I know some viewers like to just kind of see summary snippets of operations, so you're not spending 2 hours. But yeah, when I operate, for sure, all the pauses and even the mistakes emulate reality. So we've got to clear this turnout here, which is another runaround, in order to back in, and I'll show you what I'm going to do to solve this puzzle. The front of the train is going to get onto the crossing, no way to avoid it. All right, so I think we are now aligned. Let's give you a better view. I think Roy and I are probably going to, we may do it tomorrow. We're going to do a live stream where we just chat about model railroading and show each other's layouts and talk about various philosophies and tips and tricks. So we'll post that if and when we do it. It might be tomorrow. So all the industries have these operating gates. So I open those. I open the derailer. This one happens to be inside the fence, inside the property. It's a rough town. This got to have barbed wire around everything. I mean, it is an industrial area, so I mean, if any of you grew up around Hartford, you'd get it. So Roy's not driving. Roy's a train engineer, what we call it. He calls it an engine driver, but over in the UK, he drives passenger trains, which I think is like the dream job, but it's work for him. All right, so here's where I pause, because if you hit, I've got to move that flower car back, and before I do that, I got to connect the air hoses. I got to charge up the brakes, and then we inch back a bit, and we do the same thing to the box car. Then we would pause there, and then we would go in and we'd hitch the tank car, which is vegetable oil. And the customer wants them separated because each spot is a little bit further apart than the other. So now we got the whole string, and we're going to pull them out, and I'm going to dump the two that I want. And I got to dump that hopper too, because I got to get it out of the way. Same deal, coupler didn't hook up. That's because I think that tank car might be a Walters, and came with those crappy plastic couplers. So I haven't gotten around to upgrading everything to. I use KD number 5s for everything. I mean, I know a lot of guys are starting to use those scale couplers, which are smaller, but I like the regular size KD 5s because they're easy to uncouple with the handy dandy knitting needle. So this is going to come out. And we'll back it onto that track that's parallel to the main, parallel to that maintenance away train that's doing work. And there's a lot of ways you can do switching in this layout. I mean, I try to take the most efficient route. Nice thing about having that road crossing is it gives you just one more thing you got to think about when you're operating. Because more often than not, you're hitting it. What do I need to do here? Line to that. So we're going to go back. Really don't need to go back. Yeah, a little bit more. I've got to clear the turnout that goes into the food plant because I got to get back in there. So, all right. This is one of these shelf couplers. Not too bad. Leave those there. A lot of back and forth. Ooh, almost dropped the tripod. That'd be fun. A lot of back and forth when you're doing switching operations. That's the fun of it. That was a fly trap. I just electrocuted a fly. Challenge with the layout in the garage, you get flies. And there we go, back into Bachi foods. And yeah, I'm not being super authentic here for the sake of time, but I normally would wait a bit before I just jam it in reverse. All right, so we got, because we have multiple sides here, or multiple spots at the siding, we've got to separate the cars. We got lighting in this facility because my subscribers were telling me I needed lights, and I didn't disagree. So just put LEDs at the different spots, or at least the first and the third spot. I don't want to have lights everywhere because, in the real world, you don't have every single light on. So I like the randomness of it. So first thing we'd place is that corn syrup car, which is all the way back there where there's hoses, basically where the lights are. That's about good right there. So then we'll just decouple that. This is where these shelf couplers are pain in the ass. I might actually want to put a magnetic coupler right there because actually, you know what? When I change the coupler, it's not going to be an issue. Just those shelf couplers. And then the box car, you got to align it right with the doorway, obviously, or they can't unload it. So you got to make sure you just right there. And then come back up. So we got their new cars are there. Now he's got to put the flour car back. And that flour car switches between salt and flour. That's what's in those towers there. So I've got 1, 2. How many do I have? 1, 2. I just got 2. Yeah, one's flour, one is salt. So I interchange between the two. You see, the other one's actually on the interchange track there. But that would be the next session. So I don't always switch all the cars on each siding. And that wouldn't be realistic. It's whatever the customer needs at the time. All right, so now I got to grab that flour car. Go out on a limb here and see if I can make this hitch realistic. Come on. Nice and slow. Not bad. I'll give it a B. All right, so then we uncouple that from the 2 that we want. and we go forward. See, those are Katy couplers. I never had problems with the Katy number 5s. I just bought a bundle of them the other day because I got a ton of cars. I got to upgrade the couplers too. I don't know why. I mean, these cars are so expensive, rail cars, but they come with crap couplers. Well, everybody wants to fatten their profit margin, but it's a shame that when you buy an Atlas, it doesn't come with a Katy coupler or something very equivalent. But that's the nature of the hobby. Spend, spend, spend. All right, so here we go with the last move here. And I'll show you where I put the empty cars that I just picked up. So that spot also has an LED. I wanted it on the silo because it kind of gives a nice reflection of the light. Just ran some conduit up. And you can see the piping hoses. So these are pressure aided hoppers, I guess they call them. So they just vacuum the contents out instead of dropping them down into a pit. So there we go. So that is one happy customer now. They're all switched. And then what I do is, as I'm pulling out, actually, this is another way you can make it more realistic. That's the garage door. Wife is pulling in. So I would stop, give time for the conductor to come out, then you close the gates, you close the derailleur, and then you're good to go from there. So now you're just going to go pick up those empties. All right, so then in this case, I just clear the switch so that I can get to the 2 empties that we just picked up. It's right here. Give you another angle. By now, that maintenance away crew must have changed 50 ties at least. All right. So we've got an empty box car and an empty vegetable oil car. And I'll show you where those are going to go. Because they'll be picked up by CSX and drug out of here by them. We put it on that second interchange track, parallel to the one that has the cut of cars there. So in that case, that turnout that I'm on right now has to be clear. I'm just going to ignore that crossing, so no horn. And we align the turnout. And now we're just going to back it in. Make sure we're aligned. We've got to go this way because we're going into. No, actually, we're not. Yes, we are. Okay, good to go. So if I'm aligned right, we're going to end up going on that second interchange track. So what I would do is, I mean, no, I probably would pull more of that cut out, maybe even the entire cut, and put it out onto the main and switch all the industries. But sometimes I'll do this, just take a couple of cars. So I don't feel like, if I don't feel like doing 7 cars. So now that can sit there. That's ready for CSX. But reality is they wouldn't come for 2 cars, so we'd fill that track up. And this thing needs to get fueled up, so it's going back to its home. It's one of my favorite scenes on the layout is this facility here. It's not a huge engine facility, but it's a region of a regional railroad, so it's not something you'd see in the Union Pacific out west. They got fuel, they've got welding torch, they've got tools, they've got a facility. That's about all they need. So all they're going to get. All right, so that one lives there. And then like the other sidings, I close the gates. I put the derailleur, set the derailleur. So what have we done? We've got the maintenance away train doing its work. We've got a cut of cars out from the CSX. 2 of those have been switched and are put onto the secondary track, interchange track. And CSX engine number 3289 is back in its territory. So you could see how much there is to do on this layout. I mean, that was just one little maneuver, two little maneuvers. And it's taken a decent amount of time. So yeah, that's this far into the layout. I've got this industry. I've got the engine house. I've got down here the ADM facility, which has three cars. I've got this distribution and cold storage, which has 2 cars at the loading bays, but it's also got a 3rd car now. They can sit in this extension track. And then you've got the maintenance away cars. So there's a lot of activity in this end. And when you're working this end, you're shoving cars generally across that, which sometimes I'll use that caboose for the shove with its light. So yeah, we haven't even talked about switching that into the layout, but there's quite a bit of activity down there too. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. That's the new extension. Hopefully that was enjoyable. Well, so wrap it up. Appreciate you guys dialing in, and I hope it was entertaining for a late Friday morning, early afternoon. I'll do these more, times when we have more folks available, like weekend mornings or evenings during the week. But yeah, speaking of which, Roy and I may try to do one tomorrow. So we'll post the time. Thanks again. We'll wrap it up. Cheers, and have a great weekend.